In a world of constant change, Breaking News Hub brings you the stories that matter. Fast, accurate, and always ahead of the curve. This is BNH TV, where news breaks first. Subscribe now and never miss a headline.
The ongoing war in Ukraine has highlighted the importance of U.S. aid. Since Russia's invasion in 2022, the U.S. has provided billions in military, financial, and humanitarian assistance. This aid has bolstered Ukraine's defense, stabilized its economy, and supported displaced citizens. U.S. aid is a lifeline for Ukraine, symbolizing global solidarity. The continuation of this aid is crucial for Ukraine's future. Donald Trump's relationship with Ukraine has been inconsistent and controversial. During his 2016 campaign, Trump made statements suggesting a shift in U.S. foreign policy towards Russia. His administration was slow to provide lethal aid to Ukraine. The 2019 phone call with President Zelensky, where Trump appeared to pressure for an investigation into Joe Biden, led to his first impeachment. This incident cast a shadow over U.S.-Ukraine relations. Trump's actions raise questions about his commitment to supporting Ukraine. Concerns about a second Trump presidency continue to resonate. The Trump administration's approach to Ukraine contrasted sharply with Biden's. Under Biden, the U.S. has provided unprecedented military and financial assistance. This reflects a renewed emphasis on transatlantic unity and countering Russian aggression. Biden's support for Ukraine is seen as a defense of democracy. This stance has bipartisan support in Congress and among European allies. Critics argue that U.S. involvement risks escalation with Russia. Despite criticisms, Biden remains steadfast in supporting Ukraine. The contrast between Trump and Biden highlights the significant influence of a president on U.S. foreign policy. The potential return of Trump raises questions about U.S. aid to Ukraine. Support for Ukraine has been bipartisan, but cracks are emerging within the Republican Party. Some Republicans, aligned with Trump's America First view, are skeptical of U.S. involvement. They argue for prioritizing domestic interests over foreign conflicts. Democrats largely support Ukraine, viewing the conflict as a battle between democracy and authoritarianism. The partisan divide reflects broader polarization in American politics. Navigating these fault lines is crucial for sustaining U.S. support for Ukraine. For Ukraine, U.S. support is crucial. They worry that a decline in U.S. aid could embolden Russia. Ukrainian officials avoid criticizing U.S. politics to maintain bipartisan support. Privately, they express concerns about a potential Trump presidency. They fear Trump would provide less support against Russian aggression. U.S. support is also symbolically important, boosting Ukrainian morale. A perception of waning U.S. support could demoralize Ukraine. Ukraine understands its fate is tied to U.S. political dynamics. They must continue to make the case for American assistance. The impact of a Trump presidency on U.S. aid to Ukraine is debated among experts. Some believe Trump would reduce support, jeopardizing Ukraine's resistance. They cite Trump's past skepticism of NATO and affinity for Putin. Others suggest Trump's actions might not align with his rhetoric. They argue Trump might pursue a negotiated settlement, pressuring Ukraine to make concessions. The geopolitical landscape has shifted since Trump left office. The united Western response to Russia's invasion could constrain Trump's actions. A shift in U.S. policy towards Ukraine has global ramifications. A decline in U.S. support could embolden authoritarian leaders like China. It could undermine U.S. credibility and signal unreliability to allies. Continued robust support could deter future aggression and reaffirm U.S. commitment to allies. The conflict's outcome has significant implications for Europe. A Russian victory would destabilize Europe, while a Ukrainian victory could bolster democracy. The stakes in Ukraine are high for the international order. U.S. decisions will have far-reaching consequences. American public opinion on Ukraine is complex and evolving. Initial support was strong and bipartisan. As the conflict drags on, public support has eroded, especially among Republicans. Concerns about the financial burden of U.S. aid are growing. Republicans aligned with Trump's America First agenda view the conflict as a regional dispute. They argue for focusing on domestic issues. Democrats see the conflict as a battle between democracy and authoritarianism. They argue for supporting Ukraine to defend democratic values. Predicting U.S. aid to Ukraine under Trump is uncertain. One scenario involves a significant reduction in support. This could happen if Trump faces limited domestic constraints. Another possibility is a continuation of current policy. This could occur if Trump faces pressure to maintain support. A third scenario involves an unpredictable approach by Trump. He might attempt to broker a peace deal, pressuring Ukraine to make concessions. The economic implications of U.S. aid to Ukraine are debated. Critics argue the funds could be better spent on domestic priorities. They contend the economic burden is unsustainable. Proponents argue the costs of inaction are higher. Supporting Ukraine deters authoritarian regimes and prevents global instability. They also point to the economic benefits of a stable Ukraine. The debate over aid's costs and consequences will continue. Policymakers must balance domestic needs with foreign policy objectives. The U.S. response to the Ukraine crisis raises questions about American values and its role in the world. The conflict in Ukraine is a battle between democracy and authoritarianism. The U.S. decision to support Ukraine tests its commitment to freedom and democracy. Advocates argue the U.S. has a moral obligation to act. Opponents argue the U.S. should prioritize its own interests. The debate reflects broader questions about American exceptionalism. The conflict in Ukraine has profound implications that extend far beyond the immediate region. It tests the resilience of the rules-based international order established post-World War II. The outcome will impact Europe, global power balance, and security. A Russian victory would embolden authoritarian regimes and challenge the existing order. Conversely, a Ukrainian victory would reaffirm sovereignty and democratic values. The U.S. plays a critical role in shaping the conflict's outcome and the future global order. As the conflict in Ukraine enters a protracted phase, it is essential to consider not just the immediate challenges, but also the long-term strategies required for a sustainable and just peace. This involves addressing the root causes of the conflict, pursuing diplomatic solutions, and laying the groundwork for a post-conflict order that ensures security and stability for all parties. One crucial aspect of a sustainable peace is addressing the humanitarian crisis caused by the conflict. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced from their homes, and the country faces a daunting task in rebuilding its infrastructure and economy. The international community must provide robust humanitarian assistance and support Ukraine's reconstruction efforts. Another key element is finding a political solution that addresses the legitimate security concerns of all parties involved. This will require dialogue, compromise, and a willingness to address the root causes of the conflict, including historical grievances, identity politics, and geopolitical rivalries. Finally, a sustainable peace requires a long-term commitment from the international community to support Ukraine's democratic development, economic recovery, and security. This includes providing military assistance to deter future aggression, promoting economic integration with the West, and strengthening Ukraine's democratic institutions. The trajectory of the war in Ukraine remains uncertain, with both sides experiencing setbacks and claiming victories. The initial Russian invasion, met with unexpectedly fierce Ukrainian resistance, has bogged down into a grinding war of attrition, with neither side able to achieve a decisive breakthrough. The battlefield dynamics are constantly evolving, influenced by factors such as military capabilities, strategic decisions, external support, and the resolve of the combatants. Ukraine's ability to withstand the initial Russian onslaught, bolstered by Western military aid and intelligence, has surprised many observers. the Ukrainian military has effectively employed asymmetric tactics, utilizing its knowledge of the terrain and leveraging Western-supplied weapons such as Javelin anti-tank missiles and HIMARS rocket systems to inflict heavy losses on Russian forces. However, Russia retains significant military advantages, including a larger army, vast artillery reserves, and the capability to inflict massive damage on Ukrainian infrastructure and civilian populations. Russia has adapted its tactics, focusing on consolidating control over captured territories in eastern and southern Ukraine, while relentlessly bombarding Ukrainian cities and infrastructure, aiming to demoralize the population and cripple the Ukrainian economy. The outcome of the conflict hinges not only on military might, but also on factors such as economic resilience, political will, and international support. The West's continued provision of military and financial assistance to Ukraine, coupled with sanctions against Russia, will play a crucial role in shaping the battlefield dynamics and influencing the eventual outcome of the conflict. The conflict in Ukraine is not confined to the battlefield, it is also being waged in the realm of information and perception. Both sides are engaged in a relentless propaganda war, seeking to control the narrative, shape public opinion, and demonize the enemy. The information war is as intense and consequential as the military conflict, with the potential to influence the course of the war and its aftermath. Russia has a long history of employing disinformation and propaganda to advance its geopolitical goals. In the context of the Ukraine conflict, Russia has sought to justify its invasion with a fabricated narrative of liberating the Ukrainian people from a Nazi regime. Russian state-controlled media outlets have relentlessly spread disinformation, accusing Ukraine of committing atrocities, portraying the West as aggressors, and downplaying Russian losses. Ukraine, acutely aware of the importance of countering Russian propaganda, has been actively engaged in its own information campaign, seeking to expose Russian lies, highlight Ukrainian resilience, and garner international support. Ukraine has effectively utilized social media platforms to share real-time updates from the battlefield, amplify the voices of ordinary Ukrainians, and mobilize global public opinion against the Russian invasion. The information war is not a sideshow, it is an integral part of the conflict. The ability of each side to effectively communicate its narrative, counter disinformation, and maintain credibility will play a crucial role in shaping the perceptions of the conflict, influencing international support, and ultimately impacting the outcome of the war. The world is watching the conflict in Ukraine with a mixture of anxiety, horror, and a profound sense of foreboding. The stakes could not be higher. The outcome of this war will have far-reaching consequences, not only for Ukraine and Russia, but for the future of Europe, the rules-based international order, and the balance of power in the 21st century. The conflict has already had a profound impact on the global security landscape, shattering long-held assumptions about European stability and triggering a reassessment of defense postures worldwide. The war has exposed the fragility of the post-Cold War order, demonstrating that the threat of interstate conflict remains a stark reality, even in the 21st century. The war has also exacerbated existing global challenges such as energy security, food security, and inflation, further straining the international system and highlighting the interconnected nature of global challenges. The conflict has underscored the importance of international cooperation and the need for a coordinated global response to address shared threats. The world is at a crossroads. The decisions made by global leaders in the coming months and years will determine whether the international community can forge a path towards a more stable, just, and rules-based world, or whether the conflict in Ukraine will mark the beginning of a more dangerous and unpredictable era. The future of US aid to Ukraine hangs in the balance, a casualty of the deeply polarized political climate in the United States. The looming shadow of Donald Trump's potential return to power adds to the uncertainty. The stakes are high for Ukraine and American foreign policy. Trump's transactional approach to foreign policy casts a long shadow. The potential for a drastic reduction in aid or a shift towards appeasement with Russia sends shivers down the spines of Ukrainian officials and citizens alike. US aid represents a lifeline of military hardware, financial support, and symbolic solidarity. Yet, amidst the uncertainty, glimmers of hope persist. The unprecedented unity of the Western alliance in response to Russian aggression and the bipartisan support for Ukraine in Congress offer some solace. The unwavering determination of the Ukrainian people to resist Russian imperialism and the potential for a more assertive US approach cannot be discounted. The coming months and years will be a crucible for US foreign policy. The decisions made in Washington will shape the fate of Ukraine and influence the balance of power. The flame of democracy, flickering precariously, will either be extinguished or ignite a new era of freedom. The world has been irrevocably transformed by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The post-Cold War order lies shattered, replaced by heightened tensions and renewed great power rivalry. The conflict has exposed the fault lines in the international system and the need for reassessment of global alliances. The ramifications extend far beyond Ukraine, impacting energy security, food supplies, and fueling global inflation. The interconnected world amplifies the consequences of conflict, highlighting shared vulnerability and the need for collective action. The international community faces a stark choice: cling to the past or forge a new path grounded in cooperation and diplomacy. The United States bears a unique responsibility in shaping the post-invasion world. Washington's path will have profound consequences for generations to come. The stakes are high, demanding a commitment to multilateralism and diplomacy. Amidst the challenges lie opportunities for renewal and transformation. The conflict in Ukraine has galvanized the international community, reminding us of the fragility of peace and the need for collective action. It is a wake-up call, a reminder that today's choices will shape the world for future generations. Stay informed and engaged. Subscribe to B&H TV for more in-depth analysis and updates.